This is a podcast on human karyotyping. You were given a handout called Human Karyotype Investigation. You should see that there's a background and there are 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph starts with occasionally. You're going to label that paragraph as 1. The second paragraph, some of the abnormalities can be detected by a test called a karyotype. You're going to label that paragraph 2. And to create a karyotype, chromosomes from a cell are stained. That's going to be your third paragraph. I want you to read those 3 paragraphs and I want you to answer these 3 questions. What makes a chromosome abnormal? What can a karyotype tell us? And how are autosomes arranged on a karyotype? So a karyotype is an image, of all 46 chromosomes. And by looking at this karyotype, we can determine a few things which you're going to read about. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Go ahead and pause this podcast, read through the 3 paragraphs, answer the 3 questions, and then we'll come back together. Okay, now that you've finished answering the 3 questions and reading, I want to go over the karyotypes. So here is an example of a human karyotype. We know it's human because there are 23 pairs. In a karyotype, you will notice that similar chromosomes are paired up. Okay, they're paired up. One comes from mom, one comes from dad. There are 23 pairs. I know here there's a little bit more. It's just showing you that there's 2 different types of sex chromosomes, but there are 23 pairs. The first 22 chromosomes, we call those autosomes. Okay, autosomes. We call them autosomes because they contain genes that do not determine the sex of the baby. They do not tell you whether it's male or female. These genes might tell you anything other than the sex. So it could tell you height, it could tell you the eye color, it could tell you the shape of your nose, it could tell you your skin tone. And the 23rd pair of chromosomes are your sex chromosomes. So go ahead and fill that in, chromosomes. And these sex chromosomes will tell you whether the baby is going to be male or female. If the sex chromosomes have 2 similar chromosomes of similar height, then it's female. We call it XX. However, if there's a big chromosome and a really tiny one, we call the little tiny one Y, and XY would represent the male. Okay, so anytime you see this, it's going to be a male. Anytime you see this, it's going to be a female. Okay, so this is what a karyotype looks like. Again, it's arranged from tallest to smallest, with the exception of the sex chromosomes, which will be given to you. And by looking at it, you should determine whether it's a male or a female based on their size. Again, these first 22 are called autosomes, and the last pair is your sex chromosome because they determine the sex of the baby. However, using a karyotype, we could also figure out if an individual is going to have an abnormality. And usually there's an abnormality if there's an extra chromosome somewhere or there's a missing chromosome somewhere. So here, if we look at the chromosomes, they all look pretty normal. They're all arranged from tallest to smallest, but if we look at the chromosome 21, we see that there is actually an extra one. We call this trisomy, meaning there are 3 of them on chromosome 21. And when you see an extra chromosome there, there will be, the child will develop a condition called Down syndrome. So Down syndrome is when individuals are intellectually, mentally, and emotionally slow. They typically have shorter arms, shorter legs, right? These are called limbs. they are at risk of heart disease, and there is no treatment. Okay, so if you have Down syndrome, there's no way we could reverse it. Okay, because it's found in the genes, and this individual has an extra chromosome. Another disorder that can result from an abnormality in the karyotype is called Klinefelter syndrome. So let's look at this karyotype. Here's a different one. Here, all the chromosomes are normal, but when we get to the sex chromosome, we see that there's an extra X chromosome. This individual is still a male, even though there's an XX. It's still a male because we have the Y chromosome here. But there will be some abnormalities, and you could guess. Like, if you were to guess, will the abnormality be in a human body cell, regular body cell, or will it be on a sex organ? And because it's found on the 23rd pair, we could predict that this syndrome has something to do with a sex organ. So it says here, Klinefelter syndrome is caused by an extra X chromosome. It's not just an X chromosome, but a sex chromosome. The symptoms include infertile, meaning that the individual cannot help make a baby. There's a decrease in hormones, smaller testes, and affects 1 of 1,000 males. Okay, so 1 out of 1,000 males would have Klinefelter's disease, syndrome. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is you're going to be given a set of procedures, and you're going to be given a bunch of chromosomes, and you're going to cut them up, and you're going to glue them onto their boxes, and you're going to do that from tallest to smallest. So just follow the procedures, and at the very end, you're going to tell me the number of chromosomes, you're going to tell me the sex of the individual, and you're going to tell me if it's normal or mutated. And if there is a mutated karyotype, then you're going to tell me the name of the disorder. Okay, you could use your notes, and if the answer is not found in your notes, then use Google. But you're going to be making your own karyotype. Just follow the procedures. Okay. Your expectations are to complete as much of the karyotype as you can. We might or might not finish, and analyze and identify using the description that I asked. For your behavior, make sure that you're on task. Make sure that if you are placed in groups, that you're only talking to people in that group. And make sure you clean up after yourself. Make sure all the materials are returned. Make sure the glue sticks are in order. If you left some glue residue, make sure you clean it up. Okay, so be respectful of property. Thank you.